Welcome back, Pride is the cat, and it's time to do Timeline Tuesday. This time, Portal. Let's do this. Aperture Laboratories was first called Aperture Fixtures in the early 1940s by Cave Johnson. Cave Johnson got a lot of inspiration from his dad to innovate, and his dad worked as a farmer. Aperture Fixtures mainly made shower curtains, and Cave Johnson won an award called the Shower Curtain Salesman of 1943. Which I guess was a accomplishment. And around the late 40s, Aperture Science was born, as they also purchased a salt mine to start their underground lab. Mostly the people who were chosen were astronauts and war heroes. This was around the mid-50s. And this was also the time when cubes and propulsion gels were used. But let's skip all the way to the 80s, where financially, in the 80s, Aperture Science was not really doing that well, and they eventually pushed on with moon rocks for a special gel that would work with portals, and yeah. Cave Johnson eventually got cancer, and announced that if the day were to come where he would have to step down or die, that he would want for Carolyn to run Aperture Science. And around the late 80s, Cave Johnson died around probably age 60, and Aperture Science was developing a genetic life form and disk operating system, or GLaDOS for short. And around 1998, she was first activated on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. And unfortunately, GLaDOS was unstable and released tons of neurotoxin, which killed all the scientists and, I guess, daughters, which sounds really sad. Except for a man named Doug Ratman. Where he escaped, he eventually was told by a companion cube, because he had schizophrenia, to activate a specific test subject that cube believed could beat, and that was Shell. Shell was then activated and escaped to death. As GLaDOS, she wanted to kill her, but she found a way to escape, and after moving through vents and all of that sort of stuff, she eventually came to GLaDOS and defeated her by using cores that overrided the system and made GLaDOS explode. Ratman hears the explosion and comes out to notice Shell where she is unconscious, and before he could do anything, she is dragged back into the facility by a assistant bot. Before Ratman can prevent anything else from happening, Shell is placed into a relaxation room. Unfortunately, after a while, the room breaks and her life is in danger. Ratman has to go back to get all the systems back online in the computer lab. After he fixes the problem, Shell awakes to the announcer, and a small checkup is done. Then she is put back to bed, where Ratman himself goes into a relaxation pod, as he thinks everything is over. Shell is then awakened by Wheatley, a core that was designed to be a moron just to make GLaDOS a little bit less wise. Then Shell and Wheatley attempt to escape, but while they're trying to find the escape pod, Wheatley accidentally activates GLaDOS, where then they are trapped again in the hands of GLaDOS. Wheatley eventually finds a way to get out of GLaDOS's hands, and when they try and escape, they get trapped with GLaDOS in a room where the announcer detects a core corruption and says that there is a way for another core to be placed, and it senses Wheatley is in there. So the core corruption troubleshoot is activated, where then Shell places Wheatley into the activation area, and GLaDOS is removed, and Wheatley becomes the new person in charge of the facility. He then turns GLaDOS into a potato, and then becomes a little bit overpowered and becomes the antagonist, and then throws Shell and Potatoes into the old Aperture Science lab in the mine. While they're down there, Potatoes gets a little bit of nostalgia, and Shell gets no nostalgia.
You get nothing!
Eventually they make it back to the area where Wheatley is, where they have a final duel. where then a core corruption is detected when Wheatley stupidly shoots himself thanks to Shell placing portals near, yeah, you get the idea. When Shell attempts to override the system with a button, she fails, as there was a trap that honestly was not that impressive. Wheatley could have done better use. While Shell is on the ground, she notices that the moon is appearing, and she shoots a portal at it because she remembers, you know, what Cave Johnson said about all the moon rocks and that portals are friendly with moon rocks and yeah. So then they, both Wheatley and Shell get sucked in, and for some reason Shell is trying to save Wheatley after he tried to kill her twice.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
And GLaDOS comes to save the day as she hits Wheatley out of Shell's hand and drags Shell back to Earth. Then GLaDOS is like, you know what, I could kill you right now, but
Ain't nobody got time for that.
so I'm just gonna let you go. And then Shell is let out, and she goes outside, and then Aperture stocks go down. The end.